this week's reflection is based on John chapter 10, verses 11 to 18. And this is where Jesus refers to himself as the Good Shepherd. Now, it's a very comforting picture, especially when we recognise how the Middle Eastern shepherd in those days operated, and in fact still do today. They just don't have the luxury of being able to put sheep in a paddock and leave them to look after themselves, perhaps checking on them every now and then. The feed just isn't there. They have to keep moving on from one bit of feed to the next. And so the shepherd has to spend all day with them and lead them so that they can find the feed that's needed. You can still see this there today, where the shepherd will be walking along with the sheep and you'll hear them call out every minute or so. They'll just call out something. And this is so the sheep will know their voice and follow their voice. Now, the numbers aren't large, obviously, and so the shepherd gets to know the sheep and will know which one's likely to wander off a bit, which one needs a bit of prodding to get moving, and so on. But also the shepherd's there to protect them. If there's any predator around, the shepherd will protect them. And we see this when we read the story of King David, how when he was a young shepherd boy, he had killed both a lion and a bear in protecting his flock. So to be a sheep in that situation, you would at least feel very secure. So much so that King David, when he was king, so it's much later in his life, he had to run for his life because his son Absalom rebelled against him and got an army together and was going to kill him and take over as king. And so King David was running from him and hiding in caves. But even in that situation, he was able to write what we know as Psalm 23. The Lord is my shepherd, therefore there is nothing I can want. He was so assured of God's care and protection because he knew how he had cared for his sheep. So it's a lovely picture of Jesus as the shepherd. He watches over the sheep, he leads them to where they need to go, he's protecting them from danger. And it is meant to be a very assuring picture. But we also need to see where it's placed in John's Gospel. In the previous chapter in John's Gospel, chapter 9, we have the story of a man who was born blind and Jesus healed him. But he did it on the Sabbath. And so the Jewish leaders, the Pharisees, are up in arms. This man is a terrible sinner. He's worked on the Sabbath. He's broken the law. What they failed to see was that Jesus had done something that only God can do. He'd given a man sight. And so this whole chapter is the conflict between Jesus and the Pharisees. And it ends up with Jesus really saying to them, look, you think you can see, you think you know it all, but you are actually blind. He's showing up their spiritual blindness. And this is where he begins this discourse, or whatever you want to call it, about I am the Good Shepherd. Because it is against the Jewish leaders who he is referring to really as thieves and robbers, people who have come to harm the sheep, or as perhaps a hired hand who has no care for the sheep, and when danger comes they simply run away, leave the sheep to their own devices. It is actually a claim to exclusivity. He calls himself the door through which the sheep may come and be saved. This resonates with John 14:6, where Jesus says, I am the way and the truth and the life. No one comes to the Father except through me. So it's a claim to be the only way, but it's also a claim that is based on love. Jesus states, I lay down my life for the sheep. And again, in contrast to those who would simply run away when there was danger to protect themselves. He says, I lay down my life, and he stresses that he lays it down. No one takes it from him, but he willingly lays down his life for the sake of the sheep. So yes, it's a picture of the love and the assurance, but it's not just that cuddly love and assurance. It's also a statement that the way to God is through Jesus alone. Any other attempt to God is going to lead to our harm. Now, the Pharisees were strictly religious people. They really, really wanted to be obedient to God and obey all the laws. But in their religiosity, they became very hard taskmasters and very assured of their own rightness. And they couldn't see that God was in Jesus. The picture of the shepherd also was often used as a picture of rulers, and Ezekiel uses this. In Ezekiel chapter 34, he's talking about the rulers of Israel, and in verse 4 he says, "You ruled them harshly and brutally." In other words, he's very scathing. This is God speaking, very scathing of the leaders. And then later he says, God speaking, "I myself will search for my sheep and look after them, and then I will shepherd the flock with justice." Jesus refers to himself as the good shepherd, the one who will look after the flock with justice. He will take care of them. The good shepherd lives for the sheep. That's his whole goal. That's the reason for everything he does. So why then would we want to follow any other way? Wouldn't it be wonderful in the midst of the greatest turmoil of our lives, we were able to say like King David, "The Lord is my shepherd. There is nothing I could want."